Hi, and welcome to this special episode of Learning is the New Working, a podcast for chief learning officers, talent leaders, designers, and learning geeks who are humble enough to think that we must do much more to be better at preparing people for the future workplace. This is a special episode because I got and could not pass up the chance to talk to two amazing women learning leaders who really are leaders in our discipline. And to do so on the 10th anniversary of the publication of a book that they co-wrote together called 2020 Workplace. The subtitle of the book is How Innovative Companies Attract, Develop, and Keep Tomorrow's Employees Today. Jeanne Meister and Karie Willyerd collaborated on this forward-looking book on the future of workplace and workplace learning, which they published 10 years ago back in 2010. They were, even then, very well qualified to have strong, effective opinions on how trends would shape on the evolution of workplace and talent practices over the decade that we've just closed out. At the time, Jeanne was an internationally recognized NYC-based thought leader and speaker on enterprise learning. She was the author of several books already and a researcher and founder of Corporate U, which helped companies establish corporate university models. She was also the co-founder of the Future Workplace Consortium. Meanwhile, across the country in Silicon Valley, Karie was the VP and Chief Learning Officer at Sun Microsystems. She subsequently served as SVP of Customer Education at SAP, SAP that is. She's a founder, entrepreneur, and an advisor at the Center for Effective Organizations at USC, and served in talent leadership roles for several Fortune 200 companies. She's currently head of learning at Visa Corporation. As you'll hear in our conversation, neither has stood still in the intervening 10 years, and both continue to lead the development of a smarter L&D community, innovate in learning technologies and approaches, and practice state-of-the-art application of learning principles to create value in world-class organizations. I thought it would be really fun at the beginning of 2020 to look back at their book from the vantage point of its eponymous future year, to take a look at how their predictions played out, and more importantly, learn from them about the techniques and purpose of thinking about the future, and also get a take on what they think is next for workplace learning. Guys, welcome to Learning is the New Working. Thank you so much for your time and the insights and the miracle of aligning our three calendars, not once but twice this week. Really amazing stuff. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, welcome. Thank you for having us.
Great. Well, we're going to have some fun today, I'm sure, looking, as I like to say, looking back to the future and discussing the book that you both co-wrote, called the 2020 Workplace, and looking ahead a little bit, I hope, to what you believe will be the trends in the industry for the next 10 years. The way that I usually set these podcasts up is I do a quick set of quick-fire questions to introduce you to the listeners and just get a sense of your jobs and your career histories and what got you to where you are today. So let's go with Karie first. Can you tell me what part of the world I'm talking to you in? Where do you live and why?
So where I live and work is two different things. So I'm on Monday through Thursday, I'm in San Francisco, but today it's a Friday. So I am in Colorado working from home, Fort Collins, Colorado.
Very nice. And Jeanne?
I am during the week. I'm sort of the reverse of Karie. I'm during the week in New York City, and on the weekends, we have a place in Columbia County, New York, where Karie and I had our first meeting to launch the writing of the 2020 Workplace book back in 2008.
Okay, so already you've told me it took you 2 years to write the book. That's interesting. And I was wondering how you got that done, both being on different sides of the continent, but we'll probably get back to that as well. Can you tell me, Jeanne, what is your job title and what kind of work do you do on a typical day?
Yeah. So founding partner of Future Workplace, which is an HR advisory and research firm. And we work with heads of talent, HR, learning on what's next in the future workforce and workplace. So one of the things we do is convene our members 4 times a year, and importantly, survey them a lot on what's important to them. And what came out of a survey last year was the growing importance of understanding artificial intelligence in the workplace. And so we took that and developed an Brandon Hall Gold award-winning 5-week course using AI for HR. Chris, which I know you are aware of, and I understand Karie and some of her team are going to sign up, and the next one starts January 20th.
Right, so convening and training and building community around the changing in the changing of the workplace and talent issues around that. Great stuff.
Yes.
Karie, what's your day job?
My day job now is the Chief Learning Officer of Visa. So I run an organization responsible for learning for inside Visa, for anything from how we handle disputes to executive development, and then our client training as well. So sales training, technology training, the whole gamut. So I was a founding partner with Jeanne in Future Workplace, and then decided I wanted to be back in the practice of it inside a company. So working at building a world-class learning organization now.
Yeah, there's lots of interesting stuff, especially in your current role. But can you, while we have you on deck, can you talk a little bit about what got you to your current role? I know you've done a number of CLO roles and maybe even helped define that role through the course of your career. What got you to where you are today?
Yeah, so I've done, I guess, 5 chief learning officer or chief talent officer roles altogether, taking one little sidestep to be an entrepreneur, and that was fortunately successful. So I sold the company to SAP and then ran the SAP learning business. So I've moved from one side of the house, which is the whole talent learning inside kind of thing, to also to the ecosystem that surrounds a company and the capabilities you're building there.
Yeah, and you've had sort of for-profit learning, like learning as a business you've run as well at various points along the way.
Right. Up to $500 million, yeah.
Yeah, just tiny little learning business.
In the grand scheme of a company, that might not be a huge business, but I think in our world, that's a very interesting learning experience.
And I think the business that having running a business and having a sense of HR and talent, sort of running people side of a business inside the organization is still a pretty rare combination, but a powerful one.
Yeah, there's something Jeanne was talking about the other day when we were on the call, and that made me think about HR and learning being a business. And I walked away and I thought, there's a blog to be had, and there's a difference between running something like it's a business and running something as a business. And I think running a business really helps you understand where your clientele is coming from. That, like in spite of once being a chief learning officer, chief talent officer, once I was running a business, I found it very hard to find time for all those talent cycle things, you have to do and so on. So you just build a lot of empathy for the role.
Yeah, that's great. Jeannie, can you give us a little sort of taste of what got you into your current role? What were your career steps?
Yeah, well, mine was a lot like a jungle gym, right? I started actually in marketing. So that's, I think, how I have my definite marketing bent for learning in HR. I was in new product development for Kraft Heinz. And then I took time off for family. And when I rejoined the workplace, I started by writing about corporate universities. Someone had introduced them to me. And then I sort of built on that by writing 2 books, interviewing Karie for one of those 2 books on the corporate universities, building a company, selling it, moving over to Accenture, as VP of Market Development. Again, Karie was a big client of Accenture at the time, and that's when we came together and saw the opportunity for the 2020 workplace. So I think I've been very fluid in my career.
That's always good. And then can you talk a little bit about the Future Workplace organization? What's the mission and operating model, and how could and should people get involved?
Well, first, thanks for asking. Our mission is to work with heads of learning, HR, and talent to prepare them for what's next for the future of work. So our operating model is a member-paid consortium of invitation, CLOs and heads of talent in HR that we think are really the early adopters, and they are the early adopters for experimenting and piloting what's new in the workplace. So, I'll just give you a few examples. We did some research on the deployment of AI in the workplace with over 8,000 global heads of HR, and found deployment rates globally across 10 countries is about 15%. Among our members, it's more than 50%. Deploying not just for recruitment, but for internal talent mobility, for interesting use cases like reporting sexual misconduct in the workplace. So these are, the real early adopters. So they're not only piloting new things, they're launching new job roles. Some of our members have job roles dedicated to the future of work, and one has a new job role on the AI ethicist. So if anyone is interested, they know definitely where to find me on any one of the social channels of Twitter or LinkedIn. But we are excited about what's ahead for 2020 as we continue our research on the future of work, as well as the development of new online courses to upskill HR leaders and their teams.
And Karie, can you tell me a little bit before we get into the meat of this in the book? What are you focused on at Visa? I know when you initially went there, you sort of pulled together a bunch of learning functions and were part of the strategy organization. But how can learning make a difference to that extraordinary company?
So first off, I should say a little bit about Visa that probably a lot of people don't know. We don't issue credit cards. We're actually a technology company. So we're the network that everything runs on. Mm-hmm. And up until about 11 years ago, we were just a group of associations held by banks. So we've only been public for 11 years. So many of the, and we became public by consolidating a lot of associations around the world. In fact, we just added Europe in the last 3 years. So in many ways, we're a startup, even though we've got this 60-year-old brand. And like all 10-year-old startups, you're still building out your infrastructure from a HR and learning perspective. So I'm the first CLO for Visa. And we had little pockets of learning all over. And so, as you said, one of the first things was really, understanding what we had and understanding. It was very fun to take this future-oriented look at where do we think we're going and what are the capabilities we need to build as Visa. And as a result, how are we going to do that with the learning function? So we consolidated some functions and we've built up whole new capabilities. Made significant new investments, and we're very interested in creating what is the future of the corporate university. And so, it's nice that I've got a CEO who's like, this is one of his big passion areas, and so on. So all the dynamics are right for being able to really reinvent what a corporate to go to. The future of the corporate university, as Jeanne wrote about. Gosh, Jeanne, is that 15 years or more now?
Yeah, it's time flies, and I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, we're all, it's not that we don't hear about fewer corporate universities. We don't hear about corporate universities closing the way we did for a period of time, like Motorola University as a case in point. But we're not inspired by